What's up, North Texas fans? Welcome to the 2023 National Signing Day North Texas Go Mean Green Super Show. I'm joined by some pretty awesome guests. We've got Go Mean Green 24, the resident scout on the podcast. We've got Harry, the CEO, president, owner, GM of Go Mean Green, and then we've got the OG of North Texas recruiting from way back in the day, coming out of retirement, Billy C. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Doing good.
It's a good
Thanks
day.
for having us.
It's a very good day. It's not the biggest class we've ever signed, but just my personal opinion, just doing a quick little rundown. This class, Coach Morris and staff coming in and, putting this thing together, in a short amount of time. I mean, signing only 2 kids in the early signing period. And, in today's time where so many kids sign, so many guys are off the market by the time you even get to the second signing period. For this staff to be able to put together the type of class they put together is nothing short of amazing in my opinion. They hit a lot of key spots and really did, in my opinion, a very good job. But I'll pass it on to Billy to see what you think about the class.
Yeah, I mean, what really stood out to me off the bat was it seems like he really went offensive heavy in the transfer portal, got the quarterback, Chandler Rogers, got some offensive linemen for him to personal bodyguard, and then, got a receiver out of Texas Tech. But then on the high school side in the last few weeks here, we've really seen them kind of go heavy on the defensive side of the ball. And it's interesting to me because defense, you want upperclassmen playing, you want guys who have experience. Offense, you can get a freshman, or a sophomore at running back, receiver, some of these skill positions a little more easy than you can at a, defensive tackle type position. So I think they're trying to build the foundation defensively so that down the line they've got some good guys to go to. And then offense, they know they can kind of pull in some plug and play guys and get going from day one. So just that was what stood out to me. Heavy, especially on the offensive line, transfer portal, and then it seems like we're still going after guys. And then defense, 5 defensive backs plus redshirt freshman Damon Youngblood transfer. So we've got plenty of youth in the secondary for the years to come.
24.
Yeah, just to follow up. We just got a kicker punter. The kid out of Mission. Just Sharyland just committed, so we got a 5-star kicker punter. How about that?
I wish I had a breaking news deal to come on. That's 24th breaking news live on the podcast.
It just ran across my Twitter, so my apologies. No, but to follow up, I think Billy hit the nail on the head as far as I think the area of concern to shore up the quickest. To make sure that the team had a chance to continue the success we've had is, bring in the experienced guys on the offensive line, be able to continue to control the line of scrimmage up front, and then bring in the kids that can kind of change your program on the back end. I know a lot of people have been asking why so many DBs, why so many O-line. Honestly, I'm surprised that we didn't go grab a couple more D linemen, but I know that this staff is really big on, it seems like, having a starter, having a backup that can play, and then, having a guy they can develop at the offensive line positions. And so I think you kind of see that taking place with some of the offers out of the offensive side of the ball. And then for me, really the kind of the icing on the cake, if you will, is kind of the programs that we went and got the DBs we got them out of high school. You're talking about going to South Oak Cliff and North Shore and taking, arguably a couple of their better prospects and bringing them to UNT and seeing kind of a shift that I haven't seen since I've been following UNT football, as far as being able to go into those type of programs and get those kind of guys. So I'm excited to see kind of where this thing goes. And side note, UTSA, we took a kid from you, so take that.
Boom. What about you, Harry?
Yeah, these guys are hitting all the key points. I would just say, when's the last time we got 2 players out of South Oak Cliff? Especially when South Oak Cliff is such a strong program right now and supposed to be even better next year. I mean, I think it makes a statement, that, hey, we're here. We're not going to, lay down. We're going to be very aggressive in our own backyard. And talked before, JD. I mean, I just feel like the South Dallas is a natural fit for North Texas. But what's interesting is, and I just thought this right now as I'm on this list, but gosh, man, we did a lot of damage in Houston area this year. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at, a lot of these players, Fort Marshall, Larry Moore. I mean, he's Texas Tech, but he's from the Houston area. Klein Collins is a Houston area. Shadow Creek's Pearland, that's Houston area. I mean, is that right? We got 2 guys from Shadow Creek, 2 guys from North Shore.
I think Nelson's from North Shore.
Okay, well.
Oh, sorry, never mind. No, not Nelson. No. Yeah, sorry, Nelson's from Shadow Creek. Anderson and Jackson, the safeties, are from North Shore.
There you go. Channelview, Paula Vapulo is from Georgia Tech transfer, but from Channelview. Obviously, a lot of these guys that are transfers are trying to get home, but I love the flavor of geographically of where this class is coming from, because we all know Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston area. If you can do damage there, man, you can have some real good recruiting classes in the future for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, South Oak Cliff. I mean, those are guys that we went to South Oak Cliff and we won battles for. It's not like we just went to South Oak Cliff and just got guys that were just hanging around. I mean, Keith Smith, Taylor Starlin, both those guys we had to battle, other G5s in the state of Texas for. So that, in my opinion, those are the battles you have to win. And I'll admit I didn't give Morris enough credit. I mean, at the beginning when they came in, it seemed like they slow rolled recruiting. I know he was spending a lot of time recruiting our own team, but for me, I just was like, why are we not going faster, moving? And it seemed like the most of the first offers were offensive linemen. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, crap, we just hired another offensive coordinator. It's only worried about offense. But when signing day rolls around, the defensive back class, in my opinion, been doing this for, 8 to 10 years. This could be one of the most impressive defensive back classes I've ever seen, North Texas sign. And I think the guy that we could probably all agree on that probably the big name on it is Javen Anderson from North Shores. I mean, he's a guy that had multiple Power 5 offers. Pulled up here on the screen now: Texas, Houston, Arkansas, Ole Miss, UTSA, Memphis, SMU. I mean, that's a pretty impressive offer list, if I say so myself. So, Billy, you got anything else to add about Javen Anderson, the safety from North Shore?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of right off the bat. He's probably the bell cow of the class, just from the standpoint of what we know them right now. Who knows what they're going to turn out to be. Sometimes guys have great tape and don't work out, but I mean, he's got the size to play right away. He's got the ability, and truthfully, in the secondary, you can see those kind of younger players get a chance to play right away. And I personally, I do expect him to contend. If he's not in the 2 deep from the beginning, out of fall camp, I'd probably be pretty surprised. I mean, he's just, whenever you get freshmen on campus who have maybe a little bit of something that the guys you currently have don't have, those are the guys who kind of rise on the depth charts pretty quickly. And I mean, he's got a lot. He's got the size, he can tackle, but I mean, he kind of, in a way, is surprisingly a ball hawk for a bigger guy. He's listed, I think, at like 205 pounds, which is obviously pretty dang big for a high school safety. But I mean, he's got, tons of range. You can see in the film. I mean, he's getting pick sixes, and that's just something we haven't had in a while out of the safety position. And not to knock the guys who were there last year or the previous years, but we haven't had a lot of interceptions. We haven't had a lot of those big plays. We played a lot of bend, don't break, both under Phil Bennett and previously, where, sometimes we were doing a little more breaking than bending, but either way, we weren't really making those big plays. And I think you look at the 2013 defense that we love to talk about. I mean, the big plays that Marcus Trice and Laramie Lee made at safety were just huge for that team and that offense to have short fields by getting these big plays and these turnovers. And that's something that I want to see more of, is actually having some playmakers in the secondary who can force turnovers. Because that, we talk about an offensive minded coach, you give them a short field, you give them time to put up points, and, give the defense a rest. That's what you need, because these offenses that put up a lot of points, sometimes they make the game a little bit longer by throwing the ball. Defense has to play more, defend more plays. And, that can wear down on a defense over time. So, that's what you need, is guys who can make big plays and turnovers and get your defense off the field.
Let me unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
24, can you elaborate kind of on the Iowa State defense, the new defense that Capone's bringing in? I know there's kind of a safety linebacker type hybrid position that kind of can see him playing in. Can you kind of explain that a little bit better for the fans at home?
Yeah, so they're typically going to be a 3 high safety. They're going to have 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and then 3 high safeties. It's kind of designed to look like a positive run box, if you will. A lot of teams count the box, and so if they have a tight end or an H in there, plus their 5 linemen, if they see 6 on 6 in the box, they consider that a win. And where I think Javen fits is that middle safety, because they're basically a middle linebacker just playing at 10 to 11 yards deep, and they're free tacklers. They're not really accounted for in the run game as far as the blocking scheme is concerned. Most offenses don't scheme for safeties in the run game, and so anytime you have a chance to plug a safety into the box, it's advantageous for the defense. I am really excited about the Anderson kid. I think I'm more excited about the Taylor Starling guy that I think you just pulled his huddle up. He is dynamic in coverage. He is a guy that can lock an entire half of the field down, if he's singled up over there. And I think he can do it from day one, to be honest with you. I think Taylor's got the tools to be able to step on campus and contend with any of the returning corners that we have for a starting job. He is very, very special in coverage. And I think that's primarily what the corners are going to be asked to do in the new scheme. So,
yeah, that was a perfect segue, me messing up trying to get video uploaded and stuff. But Taylor Starling, I mean, that's a guy that no matter what UTSA fans say, no matter what Texas State fans say, I mean, that's a guy that both their coaches and cornerback coaches were at South Oak Cliff last week trying to close the deal. This is a huge win, in my opinion, to start off the Eric Morris era. It's a battle that the last regime kind of struggled with. I mean, winning those battles against the G5s that we go head to head with in conference and everything. I know we struggled with Traylor the last few years, so Morris kind of opening up his first recruiting class and winning a big battle like that is huge in my opinion. But he's a cornerback that has double-digit offers, multiple Power Fives, and like I said, we went head-to-head last weekend with Texas State and their new regime, Coach Kinney, and then Coach Traylor, and ended up winning the battle. So, Billy, got anything else to add about Taylor Starling?
So you guys seem pretty confident that he's going to play cornerback. I mean, as we're looking here, that I mainly saw, of course, now I say that here's a play of him at corner, but I saw a lot of his film at safety. So, I mean, I guess we feel pretty confident that he's going to play corner here, because that makes, 3 corners in the class, which, is by no means a bad thing. But I wasn't sure. I know 24/7 lists him as cornerback. But yeah.
So what I got from the class, not breaking, but what I got from the staff was Lewis and Starling will start out at cornerbacks. Nelson is going to start off as a cornerback, and then Jackson and Anderson will start off kind of as safeties. But I think that, like you're saying, I mean, they're all 5 guys can do pretty much. Besides Anderson, the other 2 can play cornerback, safety. They can kind of rotate. So that's kind of how they'll start them off, though.
Can I fill in there just for?
Yeah.
I think the corners that we offered, I think they all have shown they're willing enough tacklers to play the outside safety in that 3-3. All got the coverage ability, like Billy said. You know, they all have some tape at safety, but they can all come and tackle, and they've got that on their tape. So if corner doesn't work out, I think you've got the ability then to use them as kind of that outside safety that protects your middle safety, who is more of a linebacker type, strong safety tackling body than the outside 2 safeties.
Yeah, and Starling is one of those guys too, where towards the end of the class, you know, maybe you have 2 guys in, you know, Lewis and Nelson who can play cornerback, but Starling's definitely the kind of caliber recruit that you make room for regardless. You know, you're not going to say, oh, we're full on corners, or, you know, we're full on whatever. That's a dude you make room for, and that was pretty impressive to see them pull it out there, even when it looked like it was trending that way. They nailed it at the end.
Yeah, I think too, you know, Grady, we talked about it the other day, and Harry, the portal and kind of its effect on high school recruiting. You're looking at Starling and Anderson, 2 guys that Colorado was set to pull away from Texas that are now going to North Texas, and we're keeping them in the state. And so while the portal isn't always great, if we can keep landing kids like that, I'm in. So,
and just kind of segue, but I mean, I think we've got to give a shout out to Coach Jennings. I mean, he's a guy that's been a North Texas alum, been at North Texas before, you know, left, came back, and I mean, as we can pull up the big board of signees, you know, we can go through there, and you know, his hands were scattered on that board quite a bit. I mean, he was influential in bringing in Nelson, bringing in Anderson, bringing in Jackson, and he played a big part in bringing in Starling. So I mean, I think, like I said, we've got to give kind of a round of applause to Coach Jennings. In my opinion, he played a big part in bringing in some big guys and key pieces in this class. The next guy I'd like to kind of point out that kind of signed today, actually, my kid's a month old now, and I had to wake up at midnight to do a feeding, and lucked out that a little after midnight, Keith Smith announced that he was recommitting to North Texas. So kind of helped me break a little news there, because just so happened I was feeding a bottle about the time that he recommitted. But in my opinion, Keith Smith's a guy that's super versatile across the defensive line. He's got size, D1 size, and he's a guy that, you know, committed to us, decommitted with the new staff, and, you know, we're able to bring him back. So, Billy, your thoughts on Keith Smith?
Yeah, I mean, that was a guy who we had committed pretty early, and you know, I think he decommitted back when Morris came, reoffered, and then we get him. I think anytime you add a dude who's got the, you know, International Players Anthem music video as his profile picture, that's pretty impressive, especially for a dude who was probably born just a few years before that came out. But no, I mean, I think he's our only defensive lineman for the class, and only high school defensive lineman. And so, you know, I think 24 mentioned this a little while ago that, you know, we didn't go too heavy on the defensive side of the ball, defensive line. And it almost seemed like we didn't really have a backup for him. So it seemed to me like that was just a guy that they wanted. They weren't dead set on getting a defensive lineman in this class, but this was a guy who obviously the previous staff had, you know, formed a relationship with. You know, he's played some pretty high level ball there for South Oak Cliff the last 2 years. And, you know, I'm really just interested to see where he fits in this class, because, you know, he's, as you can see, he's a really athletic guy, and he's got good size. So kind of going in this 3-3-5 scheme, I think, you know, you're probably looking at pretty similar alignment along the defensive line of kind of a, you know, a shade, and then a 3 tech, and then, you know, 5 tech as your 3 down lineman. So to me, I think he's probably a guy who can play that 3 tech of, having a little bit of, athleticism to move around, but also got some size to plug it up in the run game. So I'm expecting him to be a player for us, honestly. I mean, I really like his tape. And he had some big time schools going after him, especially early on. I think he had an Arizona State offer and, plenty big lists besides that. But no, I mean, it's another testament to the staff to come in and just rebuild the relationship and get a really good player out of a, premier program.
Absolutely. 24.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that could play almost at any spot on the D line, probably. Just depending on what they want to do. Like Billy said, I mean, are they going to go 4 eyes? Are they going to go 5s? It just kind of depends on what they want to do with that front. But he is a kid that I've got some buddies that coach, and they had to scheme against him and coach against him, and they weren't real happy knowing that he was going to be out there, more than less every down. So he is for sure a game changer on the defensive line front. But kind of like Billy said, he's the only high school D lineman we signed, which to me, kind of indicates that they're kind of good with what we've got coming back as far as their abilities. We signed the JUCO player out of Coffeyville, Marcus Moore. He plays high school ball at the Colony High School, and was a Louisiana Monroe signee out of high school. But just bring in 2 defensive linemen, to me, it says that the staff has some pretty good trust and evaluations in the guys that are on campus, which is exciting because, you look at the O-line and the secondary position, and that, to me, tells me they're not necessarily worried about it, but they know that that's a position that they need to address.
Absolutely. Harry, you got anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, these guys are hitting all the right points here. I agree. I mean, I think they sat down, looked at what we had, and said, our biggest need is that defensive back. Yeah. Same thing with wide receivers. We didn't see a lot of wide receivers in this class. I think they're filling needs, they're filling where the gaps are, and I don't think any of us would disagree that secondary was a huge liability last year. I mean, it just was. And on that note, Billy kind of stole under, but I was thinking to the last time we had a let's just say physical type of safety, defensive back roaming the secondary, and Laramie Lee was the name that was one of the names that came to my mind. But I mean, even further back than that, for us old timers, Jonas Buckles, Craig Jones, that we've had some really good ones. It's just been a very long dry spell. So I'm really excited about, I just think it gives the defense a kind of a mentality. It sets a tone. Those defensive backs come up and make big hits and plays, and I'm really excited what this group could do.
Absolutely. So we kind of went through the signing guys. I don't know if there's any more guys y'all kind of want to highlight. We can, if y'all want to highlight any more, we can. One guy I wanted to highlight, it's not even a part of the signing class. Well, he is a part of the class, but a walk-on. And I just had him up. Jake Wilson, the quarterback from Byron Nelson. He's actually preferred walk-on. This class, in my opinion, is bringing in one of the most solid walk-on classes I can remember the last 10 years. I mean, I know that you can't build your program on a walk-on program, but you can definitely assist, what you got. And by my count right now, we've got a quarterback, a running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, offensive lineman, defensive tackle, defensive end, cornerback, linebacker, kicker, all coming preferred walk-ons. So 24, you want to talk a little bit more about the quarterback? I know you've watched some film, Jake Wilson from Byron Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up his stats, and I knew he had put up some big numbers, but I think one of the things that might have scared some of the bigger schools away, it looks like his junior year he threw about 60% completion, just short of 3,900 yards, 38 touchdowns, but he had 19 interceptions. And I don't know if those are tips. Some of those could be tips and pick balls, but I think that's probably why some of the schools either backed away or weren't, willing to grab a scholarship on a kid that had such a good arm. But then he turns around his senior year, throws for just under 4,200 yards, has 50 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. And so, excuse me, he clearly cleaned something up between his junior and senior season. And some of that is just getting comfortable with that position. Some of that is, maybe changing some schemes and not asking him to throw as many balls over the middle. But one of the things that stood out to me when I was watching his tape was the balls that he threw down the field. It didn't seem like there was very many where his receiver was having to make an acrobatic catch going out of bounds. They were able to stay running vertically and just make a catch and keep running. And that's something that's huge at any level, but especially at the high school level with a quarterback. If you can get your receivers running vertically and they can hit them in stride, typically good things happen for you. So I'm really excited about grabbing this kid. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get him on a preferred walk-on. I really thought that some other schools would come in and offer him, free school, but they didn't, and good for us. So.
Yeah, and he's just to add, he's going to be the youngest quarterback by a few years in that quarterback room, most likely. And you look at the scholarship guys, I think the younger scholarship guys are already heading to their 4th year of college with Stone Earl and JD Head. Then, Reuters, 6-year guy, but he's technically going to be a junior. And then Rogers is a junior, and Gunnell's going to be a junior. So there's quite a few degrees of separation grade wise. So, who knows, but some of these guys might transfer out if they don't win the job. He's got a pretty decent path to sort of, make some noise in the depth chart, especially if, like I said, some of these guys transfer out, then, some of these guys are going to graduate. He's going to be, in the QB room hopefully for a while, and, he's going to have a shot.
Yeah, that was my thing. I mean, I just don't see how we make it through all spring. We got Rogers, Earl. You'd have to think those two guys are 1 and 2, entering spring ball. And then, with Head, Gunnell, Reuter, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that all 5 of those guys, make it through spring and then stay to the fall. I feel like one or two of them's got to potentially look at portal or, retiring. I mean, they may all stick, but for me, it seems like it's hard for me to believe that if I was a betting man, I would say in the fall that all 5 of those guys aren't still going to be here. So I felt like they had to bring in at least, some kind of a freshman quarterback out of high school as a body. But this way exceeded my expectations. And this was a guy that seemed like a fan favorite on the Gomeen Green board. I literally had 3 people message me, why is the staff not going after this kid? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why we're not going after him. And then today I didn't realize we'd offered him a preferred walk-on. So when he committed, I was really excited to be able to go and put that on Gomeen Green and send it to some guys and say, hey, we got your guy. We made it. So a couple of quick questions on the board. We'll just kind of go through the list, start with Billy and go down. Of the high school signees, who has the best chance to contribute day one?
Yeah, I think the easy answer here is Javen Anderson. Just because, right now I think there's a little bit of an opening at safety. I think for the most part, you're going to have, 3 spots to fill. You got Logan Wilson coming back. You've got Phillip Hill, who they signed out of UNLV. You got to imagine he's probably going to be a starter. And then the third guy is, could be Nick Nikwasa, the transfer out of Where did he come out of? Central Arkansas.
Yeah, I think so.
But we got him last year out of the portal, and he was starting at safety in the spring, and then goes down season-ending injury. We don't see him all season, so I think you've got 3 guys right there who are going to be the clubhouse leaders at safety going in, but there's really not a ton behind them. And so, Javen Anderson's a guy we could see on special teams, and we could even see him maybe getting into the rotation. Another guy who I kind of like, we touched on a little bit, is Brian Nelson. And it's crowded at corner with him and Starling and then Colin Lewis. But I really liked Nelson's range. I mean, he's a guy who's got that recovery speed at quarterback. He's got the size. He's 6-foot cornerback, and I think he's going to have a chance. He has more film, I think, at cornerback than any of those other guys. And like I said, I think that cornerback is pretty much that area, probably the weakest area on the team right now as far as depth. The only guy really is Rich Tejada. You lost Gaddy to the portal. You lost Quinn Whitlock to graduation, and there wasn't a whole lot behind those guys. Tejada was the depth until he became the starter with John Davis going down. I don't know if Davis is going to come back. This was going to be his last year. Maybe he comes back with medical redshirt type deal, but there's definitely a chance in the safety or in the secondary, and there's a reason why we got so many of those guys this class.
Absolutely, and to add Brian Nelson, that's a guy that I think's kind of going underlooked. But if you look at him, he had 30 offers. I mean, like, to me, I don't care if it's FCS, if it's Division II. I mean, 30 offers that's a crazy number. And I mean, a lot of his were, G5s. He had some FCS, but they were good FCS. I mean, he's a guy that I think maybe kind of be the surprise of the class. Harry, who's your guy?
Pearland, that's a high level of competition there. I mean, he's not playing. That's not a small school schedule he's playing against. So he's playing against some pretty darn good competition in that league.
Yeah. Harry, who's your high school guy that could contribute day one?
Well, there's so many, like a kid in a candy store. And I actually had a question I was going to ask Billy in 24, but I mean, to me, the question is, with the portal and the way that's working now, can you really afford to let a freshman come in and like mature over you know what I mean? Doesn't that speed up? I'll throw a question back on a question, but doesn't that kind of speed up the need to get a freshman in and playing right away?
Yeah, I think so. Back in the day, before the portal and before this, immediate eligibility transfer was in play, I always used to feel like if we signed an out-of-state guy, I thought that was a guy who, hey, if you sign a guy from out of state, you want to try and get him playing right away, because you don't want him feeling homesick, and then after one semester he goes back home to whatever out-of-state place he's from. That's kind of, to Harry's point, that's kind of how I'm starting to feel with all our recruits now. Of you get them that taste and say, hey, you're playing on special teams right away, and then you've got an inside shot at competing for a starting spot your spring, your second semester on campus when you're heading into your sophomore year. So I think there is that, but I will say I think Littrell, for all of his faults, I think he did a decent job of keeping guys on campus, especially the guys who played. I think we didn't lose a ton of starters and contributors to the portal. So I think what's really important is that you build your culture and that those guys want to stay here, because if you can really build that culture, you get guys who stay. We've got guys heading into their 5th, 6th season with the team because they love it here. And, credit to the university as well. I think it's a university that people like being at. And, I don't know if you guys saw, shout out to Sanoe Valente. He had his podcast with Chandler Rogers. And Chandler Rogers was saying one of the reasons he left ULM is because they didn't have a meal plan for the off-campus kids. They just kind of had to go off their stipend. And UNT, there's no shortage of those kind of amenities. You guys don't have to worry about not having an adequate meal plan or not having adequate resources on campus. I think the university has done a lot in that regard, and that's how you get get these guys to stay. I think you even see, you see guys kind of just now hitting the portal who've been here 4 years, 3 years, and weren't even starters. And so I think, Morris, I think it's up to him to kind of build out the culture so that continues, so that you're not losing guys just because they're not playing right away. But no, I mean, that being said, yeah, it's you do feel better the earlier the guys play. The earlier the guys get on the field, you feel like their shot at retaining them goes up.
Yeah, I just want to add to that too. I feel like, I mean, recruiting we know is a I guess you could say a dirty game or whatever you want to call it, but I feel like now more than ever you have to be honest. I mean, you have to let these kids know, like, hey, you're coming in and you're going to redshirt. Hey, you're coming in and you're a, I think that in today's time with the portal, you can't tell a kid you're coming in to start if you're not planning on starting them. I mean, I think they've got an easy exit. They've got a chance to, I guess, one free, get out of jail, whatever you want to call it. So you have to be careful in the recruiting game. And I give a shout out to Coach Morris because, I mean, a lot of these guys, there was a couple of these guys that wanted to sign early signing period. And he said, take a step back. Let's get to know each other. Let's build a relationship. And then if February you still want to sign, I think that, Keith decommitted, we got him back. We lost Dylan Brown Turner. Probably could have signed him in December. He stayed committed till yesterday and, decommitted to go to Florida State, which, you can't blame the kid. Florida State, that's a Power 5 offer. It's a storied program. I do give the credit for the staff to be able to, I feel like got a heck of a replacement in Matthew Moore from Ellison, the linebacker. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of, like I said, go back to that, you have to, the staff has to be more honest and upfront with these guys than ever before. 24-year
Hey,
guy.
to answer your question though, if I'm saying who's going to start, the odds are it's going to be a defensive back, and I'm not going to steal Javen. Everyone's going to say Javen. I mean, that's an easy one. But if it's not a cornerback, then I do like the Landon kid from Denton. I watched more of his film after hearing 24 brag about him the other night. And I'm telling you, man, that wide receiver, he runs some nice routes, has some great hands. May not be a starter, but I could see him get on the field next season. I really could.
24, who's your guy that could start? I'm hoping it's Shadow Creek Brian Nelson, because that's whose highlights I got up right now. But if not, you can pick your own guy. No pressure.
Well, funny you say that. I was actually I was working between him and the Colin Lewis kiddo out of Gladewater. So we'll go with Nelson. He seems super rangy. To me, he's a guy that is a true cornerback as far as really plays well in coverage and has an idea kind of what the receivers might be doing based on down and distance. And sometimes in high school, it's hard to come across. It's hard to, sometimes in high school, you spend so much time just getting guys ready to play the game and play both positions and play multiple sides of the ball. But, this kid seems like he really knows and has an idea of what's going to happen before the play happens. And honestly, kind of reminds me of kind of Zach Orr's tape out of high school, where you watch him dissect plays and you're going, all right, this guy knows what's going on before, what's actually going to happens. And so the fact that he can return punts, I'm assuming he can return kicks. If you can catch a punt, you can catch a kickoff. So you're just adding some versatility there to him. But I'm excited to see what he can do with the scheme as far as being able to mix up coverages and mix up looks and try and confuse quarterbacks. And he's one that I was really impressed with. Like, I think right now you got a clip of him kind of playing some off man. His feet are very, very patient, very slow. The receiver might take 2 or 3 stutter steps and he's kind of just hanging out. And that's rare for high school cornerbacks because they get antsy a lot of times. And and they want to move. They think they got to go somewhere. But in reality, this kid's not much. I mean, him and the Starling kid are a couple points off from being just like the Javen Anderson kid, right? As far as our best recruit. And so I'm very impressed with what the staff has done with this class, particularly in the DB room. Mainly because that's where I used to coach, and I've got a kid that's about to get drafted at that position, and so seeing other guys that remind you of things that guy does, or seeing kids that kind of have glimpses of that, it's fun to watch on tape. So I'm excited for the future.
And most of his film here has been in coverage, but if you go to like his Twitter account, he had a video he posted. I don't know if it was when it was the other day or something. It was just nothing but him just like tackling. And I was impressed with his tackling. I was like, holy crap, you need more of this in your huddle. But I mean, it was, like I said, it was pretty impressive. So the next question is, and then we'll probably go to wrap this thing up. Most, I guess, underrated guy. We kind of hit it the other night in the preview, but it was kind of just offensive guys. Now we can go offense and defense. Most underrated guy in the class. Who's
Colin Lewis.
Okay. That's 24's guys, Colin Lewis. He's an East Texas guy. I mean, I love East Texas. I'm about 30 minutes from Gladewater. I actually played my last high school basketball game in Gladewater. Got beat out in area. So I got a little place in my heart for Gladewater, Texas. But yeah,
he'll make it up to you. He'll make it up to you. I promise.
Exactly. So he's coming in as a defensive back, Grady, but 24. But what is your opinion? I mean, he plays receiver, he plays defensive back. He's going to be kick returning. What did you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw a kid with really impressive feet. Very patient. I didn't watch much of his receiver tape just because I kind of had a feeling that he was a guy that was going to be on the defensive side of the ball. I see him making his money, so to speak, at the college level on the defensive side of the ball. And anytime you can see a kid that's patient with their feet, you've got a pretty good one and can do some things with him. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Billy, who's your kind of sleeper in the class?
Yeah, mine's Desmond McGee, the offensive lineman out of McKinney. I think what I saw is this was just his second season playing football, and he's 6'4", 270. I think his huddle says that he's got like a 7-foot wingspan, and you can see it. I mean, he looks like a college tackle. He's got the length, he's got the arms to keep pass rushers off you, which is very much needed. And the thing that really impressed me most is for a guy who was pretty new to football, he played hard. I mean, he played aggressive. He didn't look like a guy who was just kind of playing slow. Sometimes guys who are newer to the game, they play kind of slower. They don't go as hard as they could have because they're kind of nervous about making a mistake or whatever the thing is. But I mean, he comes off the ball and he just mauls people, and you can't teach that. Offensive linemen, some have that and some don't. And he's coming to plant guys on their back every play. And like I said, you can't teach that. You can't teach 7-foot wingspan or whatever he has. I mean, he just comes off the ball and he mauls people. And then in pass protection, he's got all of the tools that you can't teach. He's got all the God-given, arms and length and feet. So I mean, I think he's going to be a player. I don't know how long it's going to be. With some of the guys that we brought in, I don't know if it's going to be 2-3 years down the line. You've got the offensive tackle you got out of Texas Tech, Moore, and then Larry Moore, and then you've got some returning guys like Jet Duncan at tackle, and we've also got a 6'8" guy down there, Howard Sampson, who I'm curious what he's going to turn into. So you've got some guys in that room who can look like they're Division I tackles, and this is just another one. And I think he's at worst, I think he's going to add some depth, and at best, I mean, he's got potential to. He kind of reminds me of high school film. Kind of reminds me of Alex Woodworth, who we got out of Mesquite Horn back in 2015. He was a similar kind of. I think he was newer to football, a little bit of a late bloomer, and when we got him, it was just us and UTEP who'd offered him. But he ends up being an all-conference guard, played some left tackle for us. So yeah, I've got a lot of high hopes for this dude. I mean, he plays hard. He wants to put people on the ground, and he's got the tools to do it.
Yeah, and just to kind of go what you said, I mean, Eric Morrison had a ton of success at UIW, finding these guys, these I hate to call them projects, but I mean developmental type guys. And I mean, we just saw that literally their whole offensive line from this last year, that every one of them was recruited by Eric Morris, all went Division One. And I mean, he got them, and they weren't highly recruited guys. They were guys that they got off traits and developed them. And you know, like I said, they turned into highly sought after, multiple Division One offers a couple years after Incarnate Word. So I definitely got faith in the staff to kind of pick some of these developmental guys, and hopefully they can turn into all conference offensive linemen after a few years. Harry, who's your sleeper in the class?
You know, I'll go with Isaac Sohn from Aledo, sticking with offensive linemen. And the main reason I would say that is, if you look at it, he was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered with UTSA. And as much as we hate UTSA, you got to give them credit. Their hogs are usually pretty darn good. So I would say that just looking at his size, 6'5", 280, you know, a little bit of a smaller school worries me. But just, you know, based on the fact that there was so much interest on him early on, you know, I got a feeling that he could be a guy that could surprise some people in the offensive line.
Yeah, and I feel like his whole highlight reel was just him pancaking people inside the
Mr. Pancake.
So, Mr. Pancake. He got the nickname Mr. Pancake. So I'm hoping he works out. My guy, Matthew Moore, got a chance to interview him the other day. This kid's super smart kid. You know, 6'2", 210, runs a 4.5 40. I don't know if it was just because, you know, being in Central Texas, just the recruiting didn't pick up till, you know, a week before National Signing Day. But in my opinion, I really feel like this is could be the sleeper of the class. I think that, you know, we hate to lose Dylan Brown Turner, but I think they got a heck of a replacement in Matthew. And like I said, talking to the kid, he's just as good a guy and student as he is athlete. So, but watching his film, he doesn't look like a guy that's 6'2", 210, 220. I mean, he flies around, hits people, and you know, losing Katie Davis, that linebacker room, you know, lost a key veteran and a guy that had a Hall of Fame career at North Texas. So definitely a chance that potentially he could get in here and maybe see the field quicker rather than later. But that's going to be my sleeper in the class. Do you guys got anything else to add? Grade? Do you want to give a grade? Kind of what y'all's overall reaction? We'll wrap this thing up. Billy?
Yeah, I think I'd give him a B plus, just because, you know, I want to be consistent with the kind of how I evaluate and how I grade. I think, you know, given the timing, I think this was a fantastic class. I mean, I want to give him an A. The one thing that's kind of holding me back is not even really these guys' fault, but you know, I think a lot of these guys that we brought in, I think for a good chunk of them, there wasn't a ton of, you know, recruiting battles to win. Now, that doesn't matter if the dude ends up, you know, all conference. It doesn't matter how many people you beat out for him. It just matters how good he ends up. But, you know, they proved they could do it. They proved they could do it with Starling. You know, they proved they could do it with some of these other guys, especially more towards the end. But, you know, I think, I'm fully expecting them to come out just doing gangbusters with the 2024 class. And as we see them get a full cycle, I want to see how they do in those head-to-head battles whenever it's May, June, and these kids have all these, you know, all the schools coming after them at the same time. And, you know, like I said, I like the class. I don't really have any problem with any of the signings at all. But yeah, I would say B plus.
24.
I'm going to go A- because I'm going to give them credit for the short cycle. I'm right there with Billy as far as we won the battles we needed to win, but let's see what happens when you've got a full year to battle. You know, I think a kid we didn't talk about, I can't remember talking about him, but the Damon Youngblood kid out of McKinney, transfer from Louisiana Lafayette. We didn't have to battle very many people for him out of the portal, but he was a kid that had some, you know, he had a pretty good offer list out of high school, and he had a coaching change late right there before he arrived at campus, and so I think Billy Napier left, and so I think there's some guys out of the portal that we didn't necessarily have to battle per se to get, but like Billy said, we're winning battles against other people for high school kids, so I'll give them a pass for this cycle, A-, and we'll see what the full year entails.
Harry?
So I'm going to go. I think both of these guys make great points, but I'm going to grade on a curve because of the timing, and I'm going to give them a solid A. And I know that sounds like a homer choice, but I don't think people realize how – I think JD and I have had conversations about this, but how bad the timing was on this deal. And in terms of when Wren left, having to hire an AD on a short time frame, then hire a coach, that was a tough time if you're North Texas to get through. And to come out, you know, I know JD was crying on my shoulder for several weeks there, you know, worried about how things were going to play out. So I know he was very relieved, and I was as well. So I'm going to grade him on a curve, but I agree that we haven't seen the –
Boo! No curves. Boo!
Homer.
I lost Harry when he said JD was crying. I didn't hear anything after that. He got muted, so I don't know. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I gotta lighten things up. It's a little too serious in here, but anyway, no, I'm very excited, but I do agree. Billy makes a very valid point that we didn't get to see what happens when you get a guy committed and then another school comes in. You know, we did see it, I guess, with the linebacker in Florida State, but I mean, come on, Florida State, they won a national championship. I mean, that's understandable, but I think there are going to be more battles down the road, and it'll be interesting to see how they react to those type of situations. But I think, man, the future is extremely bright, though, because you got to think about it. They have just got this staff together, and what they can do when they're all working, you know, as a unit and working together, to me is just extremely exciting for the future.
And real quick, I do want to give him credit too, because the some of the guys we got out of the portal this year are on a higher level than what we were getting previously. I mean, you look at the guys who just flashed on the screen, Trey Cleveland out of Texas Tech and Paula Vaipulu. Vaipulu started as a freshman at Georgia Tech. I think he started 4 games and then, 5 as a sophomore. To start games at the P5 levels and underclassmen, that you got to think that that's going to be a probably pretty good AAC level player. And then, Trey Cleveland had, 400, 500 yards receiving this year. The guys that we were getting out of P5s out of the portal recently, they did not come with much of a body of work. They were guys who they were truthfully transferring because they weren't getting any playing time. And, that's fine. Sometimes it works out good here. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, you kind of see how close G5s and P5s really are, even though it may not always seem like it. If you're buried on the depth chart, you're not even cracking the 2 deep at a P5 school, there's a decent chance you're not going to do much better at a G5. And so some of these guys, they prove that they could play at the schools that they were at. Minor, the center of Arkansas State, 2-year starter, 2 years of eligibility left. Like that's impressive. We're not just getting guys who were, rotational players or who are kind of either on the 2 deep or not, and you're trying to find more playing time. Like these guys were playing. These guys were proving that they were legitimate, FBS college football players. And that's, to me, that's a step up. And that was impressive to see right away. So that was big kudos to Coach Morris that he was pulling guys out of the portal that we hadn't been pulling before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Coach Morris is not me, because if so, December 15th, I would have sent out like 112 offers to everybody. I would have tried to, I would have tried to, but I mean, I'm going to give him an A. I'm going to go with Harry, give him an A, only the simply fact, just I don't have the numbers, but just to take out all the kids that signed in December that are off the chart, like that aren't available anymore, for them to be able to put the top of talent and top of class they did, to me, that's pretty impressive. But like you said, I think we all agree that give this staff a full year, full 12 months. Sky's the limit. It's pretty exciting. I mean, I think that um, recruiting keeps trending like it is. There's going to be some guys in that athletic department that's going to get raises because, like I said, this was pretty impressive for such a short period of time. Kind of brought excitement back that we'd been kind of missing. But I guess if nobody else got anything else to add, we'll wrap it up with the Go Mean Green.
I've one thing to add.
Okay.
Real quick. It does have to get better because I'm going to be the reminder here. We are moving to the AAC next season. The level of competition, level of recruiting, everything, every program, I mean, that you're going to be facing, we can't just, they have to step it up because it's going to get a lot tougher for us next season.
Yeah, and I'll just Eric Morrison, his opening press conference kind of gave us the blueprint. I'm going to go Texas high school football kids. I'm going to hit the portal to fill positions. We see a lot of schools. We've seen, Coach Pavital at Texas State lost his job. He went all portal. We're seeing SMU. We're hearing rumblings that the coach doesn't have a huge lease there. That they're not super excited with what's going on there. He went virtually all portal this year. So I give Coach Morris credit that it was an even balance of high school portal guys, and the portal guys they got, they're guys that need to fill voids, that needed to fill positions. So, like I said, he gave us the blueprint, and to see them follow through and bring it home, bring it across the finish line, round of applause to everybody involved. But 24, Billy, y'all got anything else to add?
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green. Thank you, guys.
Go Mean Green.